Chicago. Just get this season, shall we? We will react. We will respond. We will go over everything. Tonight. I look forward. Is there any hope? Is there any reason? I hope that. Man, I hope so. But it's a special game. Monday Night Football with Chi-Town Weekly. Let's line up and play. Here we go. And hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome on in to a special post-game edition of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Since the Bears were playing on Monday night, we decided, you know what? It doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense to do the show in its normal time slot where we'd be having the show during the game. So decided to wait until the Bears Monday night game was over, and here we are. So welcome on in to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Glad that you are here with us. Going to be a little bit different of a show here tonight, not how we normally do things. Not going to be going on for a full hour like we normally do. We'll probably do about 30 minutes or so and then wrap things up. And we are going to be talking just Bears tonight as they fall to the Minnesota Vikings 30-12 on Monday Night Football. A quick word from each of our sponsors here. This show and all shows on IE Sports Radio are brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. You can place your order by going to planetjerky.net and also going to Instagram at Planet Jerky to follow them there. They offer free shipping on all orders of $50 and above. The jerky that's on a whole other planet. We are also brought to you by Seal the Deal Wax Seals. You can place your orders by going to iesportsradio.com/seal the deal wax seals. Also follow them on Instagram at @sealthedeal_wax seals. And IE Sports Radio is available on all the social media platforms. You can follow along on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube by just searching at IE Sports Radio, or go to iesportsradio.com. And anywhere where you listen to a podcast, they are there for you. This show is there, and any other show on the network. Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, Google, Amazon, they are all there for you to be had. This show is also available for you on social media. You can follow along with the show on Twitter at IESRC. You can also follow along with me personally on Twitter. I am at Adam_Karnick. On Blue Sky, I am at Adam K87. and want to welcome in everybody that is watching the show live tonight on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter. Good evening as the Bears fall on Monday Night Football 30-12 to the Minnesota Vikings. That is what we are going to be talking about all on the abbreviated show here tonight. Just a rough one all the way around. I mean, from the word go, you thought that maybe after the shellacking that they took last week in San Francisco and then a little bit of extra time to prepare for this one, that there might be a sense of urgency and there might be, just a smattering of pride with the players that, hey, come on, this is obviously a horrible stretch, but we are better than this. We want to show that we're better than it. And you just didn't see it. The amount of times that the Bears had an opportunity to where they chose to go for it on 4th and 1, or just all they needed to do was get a yard and they couldn't do it. And then conversely, 3rd and 10 or more defensively, all you have to do is make one play and they couldn't do it. That to me speaks so much to the players at this point that they just, there comes a point with those where it's, you just have to line up and want it more than the other guy across from you. And they just don't do that for one reason or another. And that is why you see what are now these terrible losses, these horrible losses. Wes Trueblood in the chat room pulling his hair out. Yeah, careful. Yeah, you're gonna look like me real soon. There, this is 30 plus years of Bears fandom here. This is what the result is. You get a wonderful chrome dome when you're all said and done. Yeah, trying to joke so you don't cry. I mean, it was, let's be honest, going into this game, I had no expectations of coming out of this game victorious, but you were hoping maybe to be surprised. And instead, it's again the surprise in the wrong direction. 4th and 1 twice in the first half and fail to connect. The 1st and goal from the 1 yard line and just the inability to get 1 yard when you need to, whether it's Doug Kramer not remembering that he has to check in, or Karan Amagaji. Oh my goodness. I don't want to harp on the kid because I know that he didn't practice all week with the ones. He didn't find out that he was starting until yesterday afternoon. You go back to when he was drafted, he was injured, and the Bears even admitted, Ryan Poles even admitted that, yeah, he probably is going to need a redshirt year. We probably shouldn't expect anything out of him this season. But my goodness, he got beaten like a drum, thrown around like a rag doll, and penalized up the wazoo in this game. Just a terrible performance from somebody that you're hoping can be a centerpiece for this team in the years to come. And all right, you don't want to completely write the kid off after what is really just 2 games this season, but both times he's been out there, he has looked bad. Not just, all right, he's a rookie, he's raw. He has looked bad. Wes screaming out into the abyss for a fullback, and I have no problem with that. Let's get a fullback back in here. But at this point, at this point, it's too little, too late. Now at this point, you've now lost 8 consecutive games. You're double-digit losses again. It finally happened yesterday afternoon. The Bears were officially eliminated. I frankly am shocked that it took to this, but apparently there was some scenario out there where an 8-win Bears team would have somehow owned a tiebreaker over an 8-win Washington team. I don't know how. It would have obviously had to have involved at least one other party in there. But then Washington won yesterday afternoon, and that officially put the Bears out of their misery. It ended whatever slim hopes they had at making the playoffs got dashed. And with this win tonight, the Vikings officially clinch a postseason berth, and they actually now move into a tie with the Eagles and the Lions for the best record in the conference. And even though, yes, if the season were over right now, they would lose that tiebreaker, they would still be the 5 seed. It's still, this game had meaning for them. You just wish that the Bears would show that it had meaning for them in some regard. Good evening, Taryn. Taryn asking, is the Bears season over yet? I wish it was. I saw a couple people on social media ask in one form or another, can we just skip these next 3 games? And I'm frankly, I'm right there with it. It is exhausting watching these games at this point. There is truly no joy in watching these Bears games. They have completely ripped all the fun and excitement and pleasure out of watching these games. There, you go into it with a sense of, well, how are they going to lose this one? And then you come out of it with, my God, how are any of these guys professionals? They just never look it. Or the Bears today were 2 of 14 on 3rd and 4th down combined. That's horrible. That's completely inexcusable at this point. I don't understand how you can prep for these. And hey, the Vikings are a good team. I don't mean to throw any shade at Minnesota, even inadvertently. I don't want this to seem like, any disrespect towards the Vikings. They're having a fantastic season, clearly a better one than any of us anticipated at this point. But you were 1 for 12 on 3rd down. 1 for 12 on 3rd down. Yeah, it's just, you can't have that. You've just, only so much of it can be coaching. Eventually, it's got to come down to the players executing. Ironically, the 1 touchdown drive they had was a perfect example. There were 3 dropped passes on that drive. Keenan Allen had 2 of them, and Roma Dunza had a 3rd in the end zone, where it was just go up and catch the ball. Caleb puts it perfectly on your hands. Catch it. There just comes a matter of pride and just professionalism that is just at this point completely gone from this team. Larry asking in the chat room, Larry B asking, who's worse, the Bears or the White Sox? Worse, I would still say would be the White Sox, but the Bears are still massively more disappointing. Because again, there were zero expectations on the White Sox. They still managed to not meet them, but there were no expectations. There were expectations for this Bears team. You know, my expectation for this team coming into this season was finish with your head above water as a team. Finish above 500, even if that meant 9-8. I still felt going into the season that 9-8 could very well be good enough to get you into the postseason in this NFC. Now that may have wound up not being the case, as Washington is already there at 9-8. They have not clinched yet, but with 3 games to go, they certainly could get into double digits. But, and Taryn pointing out, he's baffled at how the Rams lost to these Bears. Well, remember at that point, they had a lot of key players down with injury, including Puka Nacua, and I believe Kyron Williams missed that game also. I know Puka Nacua missed, and Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp both missed that game, as well as I believe Kyron Williams was out. So that, you know, the NFL, it is a week-to-week league. It is very much who do you get and when are you getting them that matters so much when you're playing these. But another just terrible showing for the Bears as they fall in Minnesota 30-12. It looked for a minute there like they were going to go 2 straight years without a touchdown at US Bank Stadium. Remember last year the Bears won in this stadium. That's actually their last road victory, was in Minnesota the Monday night after Thanksgiving a year ago, where they won 12-10 without scoring a touchdown. It looked like they were going to go without a touchdown tonight in the game, but the 4th down throw from Williams to Keenan Allen got them over that hump. It was far too little, far too late. Defense again struggled, giving up 329 yards, 215 through the air. The big one, 7 of 14 on 3rd down were the Vikings tonight, including multiple 3rd and 10 yards or more conversions for the Vikings. Those are backbreakers for a defense. You've got to convert those. You've got to win those downs, whether it's the pass rush or whether it's the defense. Those are ones you've absolutely got to have. Some individual numbers on the night tonight for the Bears. Caleb Williams did go 18 of 31. So not great percentage, not a great completion percentage, 191 yards. He did have the 1 touchdown, no interceptions, was only sacked twice on the night. That was better to see. A quarterback rating of just under 87 on the night. DeAndre Swift had a decent night running, 79 yards on 19 carries, averaged 4 yards a carry. So you can't say that they weren't able to run the ball. As a team, the Bears had 113 yards rushing on 29 carries, averaged just under 4 a carry, though Williams had 4 carries for only 3 yards there, and that certainly affects those numbers a little bit. You take that out, and the average jumps up significantly. Keenan Allen had 82 yards receiving. DJ Moore led the team with 8 catches, just 46 yards though, and Allen, of course, the 1 touchdown. The 1 touchdown. They did have, the Bears defense did have an interception. That was Tyreek Stevenson got a pick tonight. So they did pick off Sam Darnold. It's the first time Darnold had been intercepted in, I believe, 4 games. So good on them. Caleb did manage to avoid throwing an interception for the 8th straight game. That's the other fascinating part of this 8-game losing streak. They're doing it, and Caleb Williams isn't killing them. That's the other kind of fascinating part of this. Caleb Williams has, I mean, certainly there's room for improvement in his play. 18 of 31 tonight. That is not a fantastic completion percentage at all. That's just over 58% completion for the game. You'd like that about 10 points higher, frankly. And he is missing open receivers. Some of that is due to not having a clean pocket. Some of that is due to jitters. Some of that is just being a rookie and learning on the job as you go. But he's also not putting the ball in harm's way. There weren't, I can't think of a throw off the top of my head. Now, I will admit I did miss a little bit of the game as I was making sure that my kids got to bed, though that proved to be a somewhat futile effort on my part. My daughter is having a bit of an insomniac attack pretty much during the entire game. But so I did miss some of the second quarter there, but I can't recall any throws that Caleb made tonight where it felt like, oh man, that one could have been picked. That one could have been picked. That one could have been picked. Wes putting it very nicely here. You're out of excuses. Everybody's out of excuses at this point. Williams is struggling with reading the field, but then again, he's probably more worried about blitzers, and especially tonight, it was coming from all sides. Kiran Amagaji got absolutely destroyed tonight. He looked terrible. And again, I don't want to pick on Kiran Amagaji because, again, he only just found out yesterday afternoon that he was going to be starting. He did not practice with the starters at all this week. Braxton Jones had his concussion symptoms come up at the last moment before the team was getting ready to leave. So it was incredibly late notice, but it's still beyond frustrating that he looked as bad as he did. This is a 3rd round pick. I have been extremely lenient on Ryan Poles, the Bears general manager, for a lot of, I constantly hear people say, they haven't addressed the offensive line. Poles has, it's unbelievable to me that Poles hasn't addressed the offensive line. And I always want to say, no, stop. He has addressed it. He just hasn't addressed it well. 6th round pick on Braxton Jones, 1st round pick on Darnell Wright, 3rd round pick on Kiran Amagaji, trading for Ryan Bates, signing Coleman Shelton in free agency, signing Nate Davis in free agency. He has made efforts to try and improve the offensive line, just with the exception of Darnell Wright. None of them have worked. That's really the problem, is all the moves you've made to attempt to fix the offensive line have ranged from mediocre at best with Braxton Jones all the way to have wildly and laughingly blown up in your face, a la Nate Davis. With the lone exception of Darnell Wright, really none of the moves have really paid off. Braxton Jones, for being a 6th round pick, has been good, but he hasn't been Oh man, the left tackle position is locked down for 10 years now because we've got Braxton Jones and Karana Magaji. There's nothing that you saw tonight that made you go, all right, well, there's something there to work with. You saw a kid look completely out of his depth on that in that drive. So where does it leave us now with 3 games to go? Of course, up next, they're playing host to the Detroit Lions. The suddenly, how do I want to say this about the Lions? You can move the ball on that defense. You can score on that defense. And if David Montgomery being done certainly for the game against the Bears and likely for the remainder of the season for the Lions, suddenly beatable Detroit Lions, but you don't feel like that'll be the case for this team, for this Bears team, because they just can't get out of their own way. They yet again failed to score a touchdown in the first half. The Lions, for all their problems, they still put up 42 in a loss yesterday. Jared Goff threw 5 touchdown passes yesterday in a loss, in a losing effort. You don't feel like there's any way the Bears are going to put up 42. That win against, where Caleb Williams threw 4 touchdown passes against the Jacksonville Jaguars, that feels a hell of a long time ago. That really feels like forever and a year ago as opposed to 2 months. So where does that leave us for these final 3 games? I still would like the Bears to win out. I can't go back to the tank for the draft pick mode. I just can't. Not least of which because there are so many teams at this point in the NFL that only have 3 wins. There's just so they're not going to move up super far. And we were supposed to be past this phase. This was supposed to be the all right, you're starting to see it turn around and you can begin to and you can see the success coming. And instead, we are yet again mired in a losing streak that is going to encompass half a season. They are in danger of having this be the longest single season losing streak in franchise history. I don't see them winning against the Lions next week. Who knows with the Seahawks on the day after Christmas? Who knows? The Seahawks are going to be fighting for their postseason lives in that one. And then the Packers, even if the Packers have nothing to play for, that the Packers take a special glee in just continuing to rub it down the Bears' throat that, yeah, you're still going to be the little brother. You're still going to be that other team in the division. They flashed the standings tonight, and my wife said, boy, there's a big gap between 3 and 4 there in the NFC North. Yep. In a lot of ways, too. In a lot of ways. there are people calling for Ryan Poles' job at this point. I can't blame them. I can't fault them. I would only say, if you're going to do it now. Don't hold on to Poles don't wait until the end of the season, because if you do, you then ruin and destroy all the momentum you got by getting rid of Eberflus in season, because now you have to start all over and look for a general manager, and make sure you include that general manager in the search for your head coach. Don't just hand him a list of 2 or 3 candidates and say, we've narrowed it down for you. Pick one of these 3. You want to have autonomy. You want to have that going on in the search. So I still like Ryan Poles. I'm not ready to move on from Ryan Poles yet, but I completely understand where people are coming from when they are saying they are ready to move on from Ryan Poles. It makes sense to me. I understand it. I'm not going to argue with it and tell you you're completely wrong, because this team has problems and they have checked out on this season. You really get that feeling. You really get that feeling that they have just completely checked out on this year. You see that and all the failed third downs, all the 3rd and 4th and 1s that they couldn't get, all the defensive lapses that are occurring. You're seeing a team that is just begging for this season to be over. We've got 3 more weeks of this. Hopefully, somewhere in this, we'll get a win. We will get out of this and not have to deal with only losses for the rest of the season. But I really don't know where the win is going to come from, how it's going to come, because what we saw tonight in Minnesota felt a lot more like the norm than anything else that I think we will see for the rest of the season from the Bears. And I hate saying that, but this feels like at this point, this is what the Bears are. That is going to do it for our show here tonight. Just a short one tonight. Just wanted to do a little post-game wrap-up as the Bears fall in Minnesota 30-12 on Monday Night Football. Next week, we will be back to our regular time, 7 o'clock Central. We will be discussing, obviously, the Bears-Lions game. We'll react to that and go over that one. There was a ton of activity at the winter meetings by the White Sox and the Cubs, both teams making huge trades. We will break all those moves down and take a look at where what we think these teams are going to be doing, what other moves might be coming between now and then. The Blackhawks had themselves a fairly successful weekend. Certainly against the Islanders, they found their offense all of a sudden. So want to go over a little bit of that, and we'll see what else comes our way next week, but lots to get through. Congratulations also to the Bulls. They held on and got a win in Toronto tonight. So we will spread the love more normally next week. Thanks to everybody for hanging out with us on this short show tonight. Thank you to everybody that was watching the show on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook. Thank you to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerkies, Field of Deal Wax Seals, and of course, IE Sports Radio. Thank you to everybody that hung out in the chat room with us tonight. Larry B, West Trueblood, Karen Rodriguez, thank you guys for hanging out with us in the chat. Finally, thank you, the listener, either watching live tonight or catching the show later on as a podcast. Thank you for being here, whether this is your first show or you've been here for all 212. Thank you for your support. I really do appreciate it. Until next week, stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you next Monday night. Bear down.